How's it going? My name is Vincent Ferrer III. I'm named after Saint Vincent Ferrer, a saint who was born in the year around 1370. Hi, thanks for joining. I am a theologian, a polymath, and a mystic. We're going to study the Yoga Sutras, the fourth pada today. I'll open up the chats here. If you have any questions or comments, please comment in the comments and I'll address you. Thanks for coming. When you get into the fourth pada, you're supposed to know the Dharma. The first 5 limbs and the last 3 limbs of yoga. So you're supposed to understand the basic philosophy of yoga, the purpose of yoga, which is to liberate the soul. Your yamas, niyamas, which is your moral and ethical code and your universal law. Your asana, which is body posture, body steadiness, body awareness. Your pranayama, which is breath work and breath awareness and building up your internal energy. Your pratyahara, which is drawing the 5 main senses inwards towards the soul instead of outwards towards other things. Concentration, which is focusing the mind on one point, subject or object at a time. Meditation, which is focusing the mind for long periods of time. And samadhi, which is when the mind is completely and grossly absorbed without putting personal impressions on it. If you've already studied the first 3 padas, you're going to understand the fourth pada a lot more. The fourth pada is definitely very intellectual. It can get very deep. Anybody can understand it, but if you're coming in on the fourth pada, you might find it a little bit more difficult than if you're coming in having already studied the first 3 padas. So let's pull up the fourth pada here. Kaivalya pada. This pada is emancipation. Here we go. Higher functioning skills and talents are attained through birth, herbs, mantras, self-discipline, or samadhi. So now this sutra, when they say higher functioning skills, that can mean art, playing the piano, doing complex mathematics, doing any type of job. It can also mean the spiritual powers, but attained through birth. So your karma at birth, your genetics at birth, herbs. This is one of the reasons why I love this text. They're telling you right here, if you take the herbs, you'll get higher functioning skills. So they include herbs, which is not included in a lot of the other text or sciences. Mantras and self-discipline or samadhi. Sutra 4.2. The flow of universal energy brings about transformations. These transformations evolve you and push you forward into your next birth. Sutra 4.3. The flow of energy in the multiverse removes obstacles to evolution, like how a farmer removes dirt, blocking the irrigation system, allowing the water to nourish the land. Love that sutra. One of the niyamas is surrender to God. And in that surrender to God, you're supposed to accept pain for purification. Sutra 4.4. From the sense of individuality springs the created or fabricated mind. Second translation for this one, different mentalities are formed from self-centeredness. Here, the self-centeredness is considered to be the false idea that you're separate from all of existence. 4.5. Consciousness is one, but it branches into innumerable different types of activities and countless thought waves. If you're just taking these in, just take them in. Sutra 4.6. Only the mental state shaped by meditation leaves no impressions or influences. Sutra 4.7. A yogi's actions are neither good nor bad, whereas a non-yogi's actions are either good, bad, or a mixture of good and bad. Sutra 4.8. Good, bad, and mixed actions create subconscious impressions, habits, and desires that manifest when conditions are favorable. Sutra 4.9. Even though it is divided by incarnation, place, and time, life is a continuous process. The uninterrupted, close relationship between memory and subliminal impressions cause the effects of actions to remain intact from one life to the next, as if there were no separation between births. Sutra 4.10. Since the desire to live is eternal, these impressions, memories, and desires are beginningless. Sutra 411. Impressions and desires are bound together depending on cause and effect. When cause and effect cease to exist, impressions and desires cease to function. Sutra 412. The past and the future exist and are really a continuation of the same moment, but they appear different due to different conditions present. I really love this sutra. Basically, you think that everything's different because the way that it appears in the order of events might be different, but really it's just the same present moment, and consciousness is present in that moment all the time. It's our fetters that keep us caught up in it. That's why the third pada really gets into the soul, how to find the soul, knowing the intellect between you, the intellect and the soul, because when you're getting the knowledge on just an intellectual basis, it's one thing, but when you're aware of your soul and you're getting the knowledge, is different. You're taking the knowledge in deeper. 413. The past, present, and future intermingle rhythmically and interweave within the 11 dimensions. They change the composition of physical properties into gross and subtle. Okay, but now watch 14. The laws that govern the transformations taking place as time changes from the future to the past to the present cause modifications in objects, but their energy is never lost and the reality around you remains constant. Now, 415 is really where an object has the same identity in all circumstances. However, due to the differences of mentality in various minds, each individual mind may view the same object differently. 416. An object exists independent of its cognizance by any individual consciousness. What happens to an object when your consciousness is not there to perceive it? 417. A thing is known or unknown by the mind depending on whether it is noticed by it. Sutra 418. The underlying consciousness that is ever present throughout the omniverse always knows the moods and state that the omniverse is in. It is ultimately the master of the mind. So they call Purusha. Sutra 419. The mind is not self-illuminating because it has to be viewed in the light of the soul. Sutra 420. The mind cannot perceive the soul and objects at the same time. See right here, there's a Bible quote that says, you cannot love the Lord and the world at the same time, because if you love the world, the love of the Lord isn't in you. So in 420, the mind cannot perceive the soul and the object at the same time. If you're studying the theologian practices, when the more you notice the crosses between the texts, the better. 421. Since multiple minds are able to understand each other, there must be an underlying consciousness that flows throughout the universe. Otherwise, there would be too much confusion because each person's reality would not be contingent on the facts of the reality of the others. Sutra 422. Consciousness becomes aware of itself when it identifies its source, which is the soul, and then it becomes one with it. There's a lot being stated in that, right? Consciousness becomes aware of itself when it identifies its source, which is the soul, and then becomes one with it. Welcome. Thanks for coming. We're on Sutra 423. When consciousness resides in the soul, it fully understands whatever it perceives. Sutra 424. Though having countless desires and mental impressions, the mind exists for the sake of the soul because it can only act in association with it. Sutra 425. Once you know the distinction between the mind and the soul, questions about the nature of the soul come to an end. Sutra 426. Then consciousness is drawn magnetically towards the soul due to the gravitational force of its illuminated wisdom. So naturally, the consciousness goes into the soul. Sutra 427. If you are careless, thoughts and conceptualizations may separate the mind and the soul. Sutra 428. You should handle these thoughts, conceptualizations, and memories by being mindful, replacing all negative thoughts and non-virtuous intent with their opposing positive opposites and eliminating self-centeredness. 429. When you lose desire to possess even the highest rewards, then remain in this constant enlightened state of consciousness, Dharma Mega Samadhi occurs. The conscious cloud of virtue, justice, law, morality, religious merit, and steadfast decree. Sutra 430. Then afflictions and karma are ended. 431. Then the shrouds of impurities are removed, and the highest pure infinite wisdom is attained. After this, there is little left to be known. Sutra 432. Thank you for joining me for the study. I appreciate it. Then the sequence of successive mutations ceases to function. See, here, they're saying when you reach this state, the sequence of successive mutations cease to function. I'm wondering if the outside mutations no longer affect the inside mutations. Like whatever happens has no effect on your soul anymore. Because I heard Sadhguru say that after you take in that stuff, you don't want to take in that stuff anymore. So like you take in bad news, you take other people's negative energy in. So I think that's what it means, because I don't think that it means things around you don't change anymore. 433. The sequence of movements takes place moment to moment, but is perceived only at the end of transformations. When I first read that one. 434. When experience has liberated the soul, the gunas absorb into nature, and the power of the soul reabsorbs back into itself. Then perfect independence is realized. That's it. The fourth one is short. Are there any questions? Anything I could help with? Any type of confusion going on? I'll wait a minute because it takes a minute for the text to come through. Okay. So one of the reasons why I'm teaching this text is because also so I can repeat it as well. If you want to know something, write it. If you want to learn something, teach it. So the more you go over it, the better. But it does say that the study of the sutras is essential to reach liberation. And if you repeatedly study them, you're going to be good. But it also says you're supposed to know the text forwards and backwards, word for word, and you're supposed to embody its essence. Thanks for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next study. The Dhammapada study starts at 8, and we're going to be on my favorite chapter, one of my favorite chapters, which is pleasure. So fill your mind with the wisdom of the text, and I wish you well.